There are 5 lessons I learned from Austin Kleon's book, Keep Going, and those are: play, don't work, embrace boredom, the art of saying no, the seasons of creativity, and forget the noun and do the verb. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Carlos. I'm a composer and music student based in Chicago, and on this channel we explore how to lead more productive lives as composers and musicians. Now, as a creative writer, artist, composer, etc., you probably have some trouble finding the balance in your creative life and really how to go about your creative work. And as you know, there's so much conflicting information online. Should you monetize all your creative work? Should you be hustling 24/7? And on the other hand, there's people saying you should completely disconnect from the world and become a monk and live in some idyllic nature setting performing your craft. And those are 2 extremes on the creative spectrum. But after reading this book on experiencing creativity in good times and bad, I'm here to share some insights that I found. Number 1, play, don't work. A lot of the time when we're making our art, we become so attached to it that we get disappointed when it doesn't turn out the way we thought it would. By becoming less laser focused on our work, we should strive to keep our work almost as play. Just like how children can build a giant block tower and destroy it without having any sense of regret, we should also strive to have this detachment and lightheartedness for our own work. Now, treating your work as play will allow you to have a lot more fun with it, and it can be a great starting point for a new project. Lesson 2, embrace boredom. In our hyper-connected world today with social media, push notifications, and instant gratification, it's hard to disconnect from the world when you really need to. One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "You're often most creative when you're the least productive." By turning on airplane mode for our phones and our own lives, we can begin to focus on what really matters. And this boredom most often leads to more creativity and new ideas. And this is probably one of the hardest ones for me because I love checking my inbox or checking social media when I'm not actively doing something. But keeping the world's external problems away from me is one of the best ways I found to become more creative. Lesson 3, the art of saying no. Now, generally when new opportunities come to better my own career, I usually jump on them immediately. But here, I think the author means that saying no to other menial social events and things that get up in the way of doing our craft is something we should pay more attention to. But of course, there's a balance to be had here. You can't turn down every invitation to the point where you haven't seen another human being for the past week. But I think we should be more aware of turning down invitations that don't bring immediate value and get in the way of our creative work. Lesson 4, the seasons of creativity. Like in our normal lives, we have our ups and downs. You should apply this idea to your creative work too. You have to understand that creative work is cyclical, like the real seasons. And you have to learn to be patient in your off seasons. I think we always want to experience the harvest and actively avoid the barren winter in our creative output. But I learned that without this contrast, which will always inevitably occur, that you need to lose in order to recover. Lesson 5, forget the noun and do the verb. So what does this really mean, forget the noun and do the verb? Instead of saying I'm a composer, you should try to say I compose, or I take photos instead of saying I'm a photographer. Now, this is basically a mindset change that you can use to avoid putting limitations on yourself. As Kleon says, doing the verb will take you someplace further and far more interesting. Now, I know in this video and other videos I say composer and calling people creatives, and I'm gonna actively make it my goal to stop using these nouns and refer to the verb instead. If you say that you compose music, you're not limiting yourself to the traditional job description that composing goes with, like writing music. You don't simply just write music, you're your own unique being that has your own unique talents and skills. And job titles like composer are for other people to place upon you, and you shouldn't need to worry about them. So just focus on doing the verb. Well, those are just 5 lessons I learned from this book, Keep Going, and there are a ton of other invaluable tips and actionable steps you can take, from monetizing your creativity to actionable tips that will keep you sane. This book is super cheap and only takes like an hour to read, so if you want to maximize your creative output and just become a healthier, happier person, then go ahead and pick up the book, link in the description. And I have a productivity playlist with videos on how to tackle imposter syndrome to some of the specific productivity tools and apps that I use. And I think those will all provide valuable information and tips if you want to compose music as a career. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching and keep writing.